Jay, a pleasure to meet you, sir.
Pleasure to meet you.
Have a seat.
Thank you.
We got the White House in the house.
Exciting to be here. Thank you.
I want to put a microphone on you here first of all. This is Jay Williams from the administration, from the White House, from Washington, D.C. Thank you for coming by.
Thanks for having me.
Now you've had a long. Well, I'll start back. I think you were you're the mayor of Toledo. Is that correct?
Youngstown.
Youngstown, Ohio. I'm sorry. My apologies. Youngstown.
Toledo's a fine city, but I was the mayor of Youngstown.
So the auto industry, you go way back. You kind of understand the basis of what it is we do here. We make automobiles the same as Youngstown.
Absolutely. The Youngstown has a General Motors plant right outside the city in Lordstown, Ohio.
Right.
Is producing a Chevrolet Cruze. So understand firsthand how important and how impactful the automotive industry is to our local communities and ultimately to this country.
And before you went to the White House, you were actually actively involved in kind of the liaison between the auto industry and the administration.
That's correct, the community. So I headed up the Auto Recovery Office, the Office of Recovery for Auto Communities and Workers, which was an integral part of being able to connect the communities in which these automotive plants were located with the administration and making sure that as GM and Chrysler at that point were going through their restructuring, you had a team working with the corporations themselves and you had our team working with the communities. So having spent a couple of years in that capacity, seeing firsthand how the industry and the communities were being impacted gave me great insight and appreciation for how far we've come and where we are here today.
Let's talk about that, 2008, 2009, what was going on back then. Compared to where we are now, we've had the best year the auto industry's had in probably their entire careers. So things really have turned around.
They've turned around significantly. To be here 5-6 years ago, to see, just the space. This is a cavernous place anyway,
right.
And it was a very somber place to be. As exciting as new cars are, it was a very somber place to be. So to see now, as you said, having record sales, having all three of the automakers profitable, creating world-class vehicles, technologically advanced, fuel efficiency in terms of the designs. They are great vehicles, and to have it occur in a sustainable way. A lot of the sales in the past were driven by, not that rebates aren't an important part of it, but the sales in the past weren't necessarily sustainable. Here we have sustained growth. We have vehicles that are in demand, not vehicles being produced simply for the sake of producing mass vehicles. So when you see the level of excitement here at the show, when you hear and talk to the consumers, it's just a great thing, and I think it validates the President's investment, not only in the industry, but the American worker, and he's going to be here in a week to talk about that and to see it for himself.
We'll talk about his visit in a minute here, but let's go back to how do you make sure, and I know this is on your agenda right now, how do you make sure that what happened before doesn't happen again?
That's a great question, and part of that had to do with the restructuring of the industry, and there were some very difficult choices that had to be made, and the President and the team that were working with the automotive industry and the automotive manufacturers themselves recognized that there were tough choices had to be made. The workers, the workforce, the labor unions all came to the table together and communicated in a way that was less adversarial than it had been in the past. So I think that was an important lesson, that we're in this together. The workers, the management, the investors all have to work together for a shared benefit. I think the other things that we've talked about is we work with the communities to make sure that the communities understand that it's important to be very economically diverse.
Right.
We had far too many communities that had too many eggs in one basket. So as we've seen the diversification of the economic base of this country, which is seen in the communities that we work in, that's another important lesson, that as we weather economic cycles, we won't find ourselves with repeating those mistakes of the past.
Well, let's talk about Detroit then, because that we're a prime example. This was an auto industry. That's all we were. Right. That's all we did. We just made cars and nothing else. What has Detroit become that allows it to survive by being more diverse?
That's a great question, and make no mistake, automotive manufacturing remains a core part of the economy of this great city and this great region, but we've also seen entrepreneur growth in Detroit. We've seen technological growth in Detroit. People like Dan Gilbert and so many others who are making investments in Detroit, who are helping to expand and diversify the economic base. I'm always get a kick out of when I meet the guys from Shinola. Again, small upstart manufacturing made here in Detroit. So it's important to make sure that Detroit is a lesson that can be applied to places like where I'm from, Youngstown, Ohio, Gary, Indiana, so many of the other places that have seen, a growth in their economic base. And I think the entrepreneur spirit that is really bubbling up here in Detroit is exceptionally exciting to me and is a good example of that diversification.
All right, so once again, the president's here, what, Wednesday?
The 20th. He'll be here during the public portion of the auto show to really, again, hopefully celebrate the renaissance that is the American manufacturing industry, celebrate the renaissance, talk about the accomplishments, but also make it clear that we still have more work to do. The president wants to frame this discussion not just about what we've accomplished over the past 7+ years, but to also talk about what do we need to do to make sure economic opportunity continues to exist for the American public in the future years coming.
All right, Jay Williams, we want to thank you very much. Jay Williams is the Assistant Secretary of Commerce for Economic Development.
That's it.
For the
Thanks,
United
Steve.
States of America.
Appreciate it.
We appreciate your time coming by, and we look forward to seeing you throughout the show. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.